Does everybody know what time it is?
Home and podcast time.
That's right, a company that is in the same ballpark as Binford Tools is proud to present a home improvement podcast. My name is Adam, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jordan. Jordan, we made it through the first season. Here we are.
We are here. We've made it. We talked about a while ago saying our goal was to just finish the first season and see where it went. And I'm kind of shocked at how quickly it went by and how easily it has gone for us. So,
Gonna go ahead and disagree with you on both those things. I will say this though: we started from the pilot. Now we hear. So that's kind of
true.
That's kind of what's been kind of rumbling around in my head. But yeah, we did make it through 24 eps. Well, 23. We are in the process of our 24th. And I suppose that it did go relatively quickly. After this episode, we're going to record our season and summation episode. And I did find it was almost impossible to remember anything that had happened beyond the last episode. Like the last one we covered. Yeah. It's very, very difficult to reflect back.
I had to go back and re-listen to a lot of our recaps. And I did so
I'm so sorry for you. That's too bad.
It was rough. I did so in like 1.5 speed, so it went by a little bit quicker. And we sounded a little bit more funny. So that was good.
I didn't think that was possible for us to sound any more funny than we already do.
Yeah, we continue to break new ground in glass ceilings and all of those sorts of cliches at the same time. And that's good. And I was going to say, in the spirit of the season, almost happy Thanksgiving to you. And
well,
I'm thankful...
almost happy Thanksgiving to you, Jordan.
Yeah, gobble gobble, as they say. Do you like Thanksgiving? I mean, like, what's your view on Thanksgiving compared? I know a lot of people love Christmas.
Do I have to say, like, is it one or the other? Or can I love?
Yeah, you don't have
love both.
You can love both. I'm just saying, from my experience, it just seems like, especially down here at Disney, they have the Halloween decorations up one day, and then all of a sudden it's Christmas, and it seems like there's no Thanksgiving. And I've got beef with that, or turkey with that, if you will.
I won't. I like both, Jordan, and I mean, I don't know what Well, there's no Thanksgiving decorations, really. Like, what are you going to put up? Like,
Pilgrims?
Yeah, but you can't do, like, Pilgrim and Indians, Pilgrim and Native American, like, decoration is just not entirely appropriate if you consider sort of how that went down, you know?
I'll tell you what we have around the house.
Okay.
We've got some nice fall things with leaves changing. We've got some pumpkins. We've got a bird dressed up in Sherlock Holmes regalia, which is strange but adorable.
What do you mean by that? What kind of bird?
It's like a little stuffed bird that you would get from Michael's, and it has on like the jacket and the hat that Sherlock Holmes would wear, but it's brown and orange, so it kind of fits the season. We have orange candles that smell like cider.
I feel like you're going to want to edit out that Sherlock Holmes bird thing later on. I think you might just be revealing too much about yourself.
No, I think there needs to be more.
All right.
But I just have a real issue with people just skipping over Thanksgiving. I very much like it. Of course, it's close to my birthday, so I kind of like that too.
What do people not like about Thanksgiving? Like, who is on the corner saying, "Yeah, I'm not into all the good food and lounging"? Like, who says that?
I don't know. It seems like more people are focused on Black Friday and shopping instead of enjoying time with their family.
I've never done any Black Friday stuff.
Yeah, I one time went out with a friend and it was so busy we just turned around and came home.
Doesn't sound like not my bag.
Not my favorite thing to do, and I don't really like shopping in general. But I do
you're such a masculine man in that regard. You're kind of a Tim surrogate. You hate shopping. You love...
Unless it's for speakers.
Yeah, Tim loves shopping for speakers. You love shopping for birds at Michael's that you can dress up.
Boy, do I. I just like stuffing myself like a pig. Yeah. And speaking of pigs, you also sent over an article.
I did.
I think it was entitled "Men." It starts out "Men Are Pigs."
It's one of those. It's a kind of an academic title, so it starts off with 3 words, then there's a colon, and then it goes on a lot longer than it needs to. So the full title is "Men Are Pigs: Tim Allen, Home Improvement, and Benefiting from Gender Stereotypes."
It's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. I found this kind of by accident. I typed in the title of the episode wrong, and this came up, so I would call it a happy accident. But published on tvcriticism2013.blogspot.com. Looks like this fella does a lot of kind of academic looks at television shows. I see a Duck Dynasty piece. I see an American Horror Story piece, The Good Wife, so on and so forth. Do we have the author's name? Do you know it?
I just looked at the bottom and it says The Donald.
Okay, so this is The Donald.
Not sure if it's The Duck
or worse, perhaps. But
yeah.
So what'd you make of this? We have a tough time finding home improvement articles, and when we find them, it's usually just like silly lists. So this was a little bit more, like I said, academic, substantial, taking things pretty seriously. But any big takeaways here? I mean, essentially, it's just about Tim Allen, like the gender stereotypes in the show and how the show is kind of built around them and so on and so forth. What did you think of this?
Yeah, it was interesting to me because it seems like it's going to be very anti-Home Improvement and anti-Tim Allen in the way that he approaches his comedy on this show. And they do talk a little bit about how it does promote like normal stereotypes and masculine behavior. But at the end, it seems like the Donald actually liked the show and likes this comedy and thinks that Tim Allen did a good job with it and kind of wishes that he would have done it in other movies. So I'm not sure what to make of that.
Yeah, it also kind of, it strikes me as being written by someone who hasn't really, how do I say this without sounding mean? I don't think he's watched a lot of Home Improvement, and I don't know that he knows as much about Tim Allen as he's positing, right? Because, like...
Well, certainly not someone like you who goes through both of his books.
I can't, I love being defined as a Tim Allen expert. I guess I'm talking about... So, yeah, he's talking about just, like, very... things that we talk about every week, basically, like gender dynamics. And he brings up some interesting points. He talks about how Last Man Standing is basically like subverting what's happening in Home Improvement because he has 3 daughters instead of 3 sons, and that's interesting. I suppose he says it's less successful. I suppose he's right, but like, yeah, at the end he talks about how he thinks that the direct quote is, Tim Allen has nothing else to prove in his career as a comedic television show star. His movies, however, may have been more entertaining if they had been comedies constructed around stereotypical gender roles similar to the successful Home Improvement. I don't agree with that. I feel like I would say Tim Allen's had a pretty successful film career. I mean, wouldn't you?
I would say incredibly successful.
Yeah.
Toy Story in all of its iterations
Right.
has been huge. The Santa Claus, I think, was one of our favorite films from our youth
Right.
and is still pretty popular.
Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest is a cult favorite, and yeah, I don't know.
I mean, all of those movies, none of those movies are focusing at all on the stereotypical gender roles, and I think that that's probably why they're successful. Has he ever made a film where he played anything resembling like Tim the Toolman? I don't think so.
Oh, that's a great question. I would probably have to go to his Wikipedia page and see that. I'm trying to think of...
I mean, Jungle to Jungle, even that is like... I mean, in that, he's not like Tim. He's like an executive type. He's a little bit of a jerk, but then he gets brought back to reality. So, I mean, I don't know. I think...
What about Wild Hogs? I haven't seen that, but it seems like that could be...
No, those guys are all just like...
Old.
They're just like... If anything, it's like the opposite. It's like they're trying to seem masculine, even though they know that they're not. They're just like men who buy motorcycles because they're having like a midlife crisis. So yeah, I didn't agree with that. I think that his films have been very entertaining because they are not exactly like this. He also mentions that Tim's career on Home Improvement revolved around his own Home Improvement television show, Tool Time, and its own Tool Girl. Talks about the Lisa Debbie Dunning character is wearing skimpy outfits and being constantly looked at as eye candy. I mean, that's not been anything we've seen thus far. I mean, Pam Anderson's been on the show for a grand total of, would you say she's had more than 6 minutes of screen time the whole year?
No, I would say she hasn't been on the show, but I do, a few times when she has come on stage, there has been like whistles and such from the crowd.
But
at
that's
least.
not the result. That's not the
necessarily-
result of skimpy outfits, though.
No, I guess not. But I do think that I think when Lisa comes, Debbie Running comes on, or Debbie Dunning as Lisa, maybe she does wear a little bit more.
Okay.
I don't know.
Right.
I guess I'll have to wait and see on that. But I do remember like whistles and stuff from the crowd, which is very much
Me too.
in that same vein that would go along with what he's saying there.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting article. The general thesis here is just like it's Tim didn't create gender stereotypes, but the Donald argues that he perfected them through the use of his comedic timing and the use of just general stereotypes and adhering to the rules of a stereotypical man. So he thinks that he perfected gender humor and gender stereotypes in humor. So we'll link this in our blog post if anyone still looks at that. And I don't know. Jordan,
it sounds like you're doing it right now. I can hear you typing.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling. I'm a loud typer. I have these large fingers, so.
You're like that Kermit meme that's typing really fast, or the GIF where he's. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I think you mean GIF.
I say GIF.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, that's how the creator says it.
Instead of dwelling on pronunciation of made-up internet words, I think we should maybe go ahead and consider cueing those grounds, please.
Sure, it's all safe to me. Oh, no.
Now it's time for Bits of Wisdom. This week's Bit of Wisdom comes from the Tim Allen text, "I'm not really here." Not a bestseller, but a text nonetheless. This week we explore the chapter entitled 3. For me, the garage is a sanctuary, far from the rules and restrictions that exist in the rest of the house. It's a place I can express my inner self, or simply express some of my natural noises that my body makes without worrying about offending someone. This has been your Bit of Wisdom. So there you go.
I guess that garage is possibly smelling.
He can just let it loose. Any bodily functions he wants can occur in that garage. That was a little closer to what we had come to expect with Don't Stand Too Close to a Naked Man. So less lucid. Of course, after that he got into the meaning of life and Isaac Newton and things of that nature. But we're not going to get into that. We're just going to talk about Tim farting in garages because that's kind of what the fans of this podcast want.
Yeah, we've gotten several emails requesting such things. So
yeah,
and we gave it to them. So I'm glad we can continue to do that. And I guess let's move on now to the final episode of Season 1, Episode 24, Stereotypical. So this episode was written by the show creators Carmen Finestra, Matt Williams, David McFadzean, I guess is how you pronounce that.
You ever think maybe it's like kind of funny that this show has 3 creators? Like it took 3 people to come up with this specific show?
They've got a balance. It sounds like they've got, guys and girls on there.
Yeah.
Contributing certain ideas. And, they haven't written that many episodes that I remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Based on...
Well, this is, you want to bring in the big dogs for the final episode, the triumvirate, if you will. They probably had a writer's room, a bunch of, younger folks kind of working on their stuff. And then, the big dogs, McFadzean and... the other names, which escape me, they came in, they said, guys, we got this one. Let us handle the Cinco de Mayo episode of 1992.
And we say, I wish you wouldn't.
Yeah, and we say, do better. Come up with something a little better for the final episode. So yeah, this week, we are talking stereotypical. You noted the writers, it is 5/5/92, and I suppose we should just go ahead and get into it, Jordan.
Well, we got to read the plot synopsis, right?
We do have to do that, yeah. So after the synopsis, we'll go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and read that. That seems to be my job nowadays. And Tony Topola is back to finish off the season, and we're glad to have her. In Tool Time, it's a salute to Saw's week. Tim's special guest is Janine Ray Heller, who can play the saw. At home, the speakers of Tim's stereo blow up, sadly, not literally, and he goes to buy new ones. The thing is, he can't restrain himself and ends up buying a whole new home entertainment system. Why is it sad that he didn't literally have the system blow up? That's what I'm wondering.
Sadly, not literally. I mean, what happens is pretty close to that, though. So, I mean, how sad can you be? We'll talk about it at the end, but things do explode as a result of the speaker system. So, I don't know. I wasn't that sad. I mean, I was sad that what happened actually happened at the end, but I don't know. Blowing up, that's just what T-Squared's into.
Yeah, I guess so. But they'll get some sort of explosion later on, as you alluded to. But we're going to open the show on Tool Time. Tim is finishing up with a scrolling saw, a homemade name sign that says Tim Taylor, except for he holds it up backwards and it says Royalt Mit. And they make that joke several times for some reason. I don't know why it was good enough to bring up once, but they do it a couple times.
That's the kind of thing that I thought was funny when I was like 8. I remember for a while I was really into spelling my family members' names backwards and like pronouncing them.
Clearly, you were a very strange boy.
Not a sentiment you share. Yeah, I like could say everybody's name in my family backwards, and I would call them that, and I thought it was really clever.
Has that come in handy yet?
Well, I mean,
still time.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm relatively young, so I suspect at a certain point I'll use that skill later on. But basically that joke was pandering to a 6 or 7 year old me.
Yeah, and it's he didn't actually do it backwards. He just turned it around in his hand.
Are you sure?
So yeah, because when you look at it later, he holds it and it says Tim Taylor. If you read it normally,
that's actually more stupid than if he would have done it backwards, because all he has to do is then flip it around, right?
Yeah, because he holds it up later in the scene and it's normal. Like if you placed it on the house, it would say it the right way. So I don't know. It's a strange opening to a very strange episode.
A strange opening scene, or not? Well, a strange opening scene, sort of, but a long opening scene. Did you know?
Long. The salute to Saw is weak, and a lot of things happen here, including Tim starts up a noisy chainsaw, pretends to run at the crowd, which they really enjoy.
Oh, they love it. Yeah,
they love that. And then Tim does what he usually does and says something rude about women. I think it's in regards to them telling him to turn down the loud chainsaw in the bedroom.
He does his female voice, and he makes some crude jokes about women. Al does the bit a couple of times where he holds up the sign, and Tim says that he's really sick of the sign, and I think he was kind of speaking for all of us when he said that, because I myself am also very sick of that sign joke.
I was pretty surprised at how easily that sign ripped.
Oh, it ripped really easily, but good thing he had another one just waiting in the wings.
To be ripped again, so I hope he has a third one.
Yeah. But I hope that that's the last of the sign stuff. But I also hope that was the last of the opera stuff, and well, that certainly comes back in a big way at the end of this one. So.
It sure does. And we go on to talk a little bit more about tools don't just make noise; they make music. Mm-hmm. And to illustrate this point, he brings out a guest, and we're going to go ahead and play a clip of that right now.
Tools in general don't just have to make banging, crashing, sawing noises. Tools can also make music. And to prove my point, I've got a special guest invited here to Tool Time, so I expect a big Tool Time welcome for Miss Janine Ray Heller. My sister Al.
Oh, I'm a big fan of yours, Al.
Well, thank you. Why don't you sit right down here? As we all can plainly see, Janine's got an ordinary Binford crosscut saw, which means we're going to have her build us a sun porch.
No, Tim, I'm going to be playing music.
Music to even the most sensitive of ears. All right, hit it, Janine.
Any requests?
Maybe...
Oh, well, yes, I have one. It's from my favorite movie.
Do you know the theme to Dumbo?
Tim, that's my favorite movie about an elephant. I would like to hear Green Sleeves.
Oh, let's party.
I know that.
So this is an interesting scene, a new type of dynamic that we've had on Tool Time. Tim invites Janine out, and she loves Al just like everyone else. And you said you had some credits on her?
Yeah, I mean, she plays the saw. That's how she defines herself. That's her career. She plays musical accompaniment with the saw. She's done this in a couple of different shows. She did it in the Tracy Ullman show. She did it in an episode of Quantum Leap. She appears in this episode of Home Improvement, and then she comes back in the final season of Home Improvement as well. So I don't know if she's coming back near the end of the show or playing the Saw again. I'm assuming so. But in every show, she just plays herself essentially, and she comes out and she does her Saw bit. So yeah, and
Yeah.
do you have any that you had more to say about this?
Yeah, well, the song that we hear, obviously you heard in the clip there, is Green Sleeves, an English old folk song, and I think you had some research about that as well.
Limited, but yeah, according to the internet, so we'll leave it at that. Green Sleeves, there's a couple of theories. It's it dates back to the 1500s. In terms of where it came from, there's a lot of speculation. There's a theory that Henry VIII wrote it for Anne Boleyn. There's also theories about actually, what it means, like green sleeves, what it references to, like promiscuity. There was a long paragraph on the Wikipedia page about green sleeves being a reference to like someone having sex like in the grass outside and then getting like a pure white dress grass stained. So that was that. So Jordan, what do you think?
That's a new one for me
I don't know.
and interesting, but yeah, I'm just going to move on to the next part where Al gets weepy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, do you have any songs that you get emotional about when you hear? They do something to you and move you in a certain way?
American Pie, Don McLean.
Ah, interesting. Mine is Amazing Grace.
I would actually, a lot of songs I think I'm just kind of a weak...
You're sentimental?
Well, definitely. I think like a lot of songs will do that. A lot of movies will do that. Yeah, I would say that American Pie is just one of my favorite songs, so that comes to mind. I think God Only Knows by the Beach Boys always kind of gets me. What else? Edmund Fitzgerald, in a sense, kind of a lot of songs do that, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? You said Amazing Grace.
I said Amazing Grace. There's several songs that are like sung in my church that do. I don't know. There's a lot of like pop culture songs that necessarily get me to that level, but it's music has a way of just influencing us, and it's interesting that it happens here for Al, and I don't know. It's a good moment.
Yeah, Al requests green, like we said, Green Sleeves, which I thought was just What Child Is This? Because it's the same melody. What do you think of this? Like, were you impressed by it? Did you think it was cool, or what? Just kind of...
Yeah, it's one of those things that for me, I would never guess that you could do something like that, or even like enter my realm of possibilities. So it's a pretty definitely niche skill that she has.
In terms of guest stars to bring on, I thought this was kind of a cool idea. At least it showed that someone was thinking. It's combining. She can play a tool that is also a musical instrument, so it's applicable as well. And I tried to look up kind of how it actually works, but my music knowledge is so limited that I knew I would just sort of sound foolish if I tried to articulate on the podcast sort of what was going on with the saw and the reverberations and stuff. But it's cool, and I don't know. We played the clip. Hopefully, it's better to probably watch, but hopefully, some of it sort of came through in the audio clip. But that's essentially that's the opening scene. It's 5 minutes long, so it's almost it's about a quarter of the episode. So we got to get out of the Tool Time set, and we want to head over to the couch.
Yeah, and we're going to spend a lot of time in the house now. I think pretty much until the last scene, I think. We're going to be hanging out there. We're back at home. Tim is rocking out to some music on his stereo. And this scene really just reminded me of my dad. Like, this is my dad right here. He loves having stereo and, like, speakers and surround sound and turning it up. And this is my dad right here. This is him in a nutshell. He loves music, so it just...
Your dad does love music. It's
sure
a passion
does.
of his.
It is.
I'm pretty sure I've heard him say that music is my passion.
That's what people say when it is their passion, right?
Yeah, just direct quote.
Not
specific kinds of music, just music is my passion.
That's right, all of it.
Yeah.
Everything from Green Sleeves to Britney Spears.
Your dad seems like your dad's a jazz guy.
Oh yeah. Smooth jazz. So he's got several CDs of that I've been subject to over the years, and I know more of those songs than I'd like to.
The music that Tim, it's in this scene, the problem isn't so much the volume; it's just the music he's listening to. I think it's just
the weird. It's like the most
it's
generic
just royalty
rock.
free music, I suspect, but it's
Yeah.
it's terrible to hear. Like I couldn't wait for it to stop.
Yeah, if I were Jill, I would definitely want him to turn it down, and that's what she does.
Yeah.
He turns it back up and eventually blows out the woofer in the speaker. Exactly, a joke that Mark will make later on. Jill mocks Tim because he starts talking about, he's been reading up on speakers, and he starts talking.
I
about
wanted to know where Tim was reading up on speakers. It's like when Tim
probably
says
in
he's
a-
been talking to some women. It's like, who are these women? When Tim says he's been reading up on speakers in a pre-internet age, where is Tim reading up on speakers? Like
he must have
catalogs
gotten like
or something?
a Circuit City catalog
yeah.
or something.
Okay, fine.
The now defunct Circuit City, but. Yeah, Jill, he starts talking about tweeters and woofers and amps and watts and all that kind of stuff. And he decides that it's time to go to Lucky G's stereo store to get some new speakers. So
If there's anything the home improvement writers can do, it's name a character or name just like a restaurant or establishment. Lucky G's.
Yeah, they nail it here.
That sounds like a place where Tino and Forche would hang out.
Oh, man, I bet they
Those
would.
those wild dogs.
They probably tore that place
A
down.
couple of wild
Lucky
dogs.
G's. It was unlucky after they got through with
Oh,
it.
no. Yeah.
So, yeah, the end of the scene is Jill and Tim arguing about what they want in new speakers. A man speaker versus something simple that she can turn on.
Yeah. And if you're worried about this fight lasting a long time, don't, because it just sort of resolves itself in a really ineffective way. So, no big deal.
No worries.
We transition into the living room later on, and Tim is he's just kind of hanging out, right? Has he purchased the speakers yet or no?
He's bought the new speakers.
So it happens relatively quickly.
Yeah, he got in and out of Lucky G's. I'm surprised he didn't spend a ton of time there. It seems like he got a lot. Mark is there as well, we should say that.
Yeah.
And this is when he makes his woof joke after his dad says something about woofers.
Right.
And Brad and Randy are in the kitchen concocting a way to steal donuts. And I'm not sure how things worked in your house, but you know how they worked in my house, at least. You came over quite a few times, and it's pretty much free reign to all sorts of snacks. Chips, donuts. We're a donut-free household, or a free donut household, I should say. If you want them, you can get them. So this is a little bit different from what I'm used to.
Yeah,
Free.
I always liked coming over to your house because you guys had a lot of snacks, and I never felt like I had to ask. I could just kind of go into the cupboard. When Karen, in the episode earlier, when Karen goes into the, she just helps herself to, glasses or whatever, or pours herself a glass of wine or whatever. I remember being really offended by that, but at the same time, I remember, I guess I was in high school, so maybe it's just a matter of maturation, but I remember coming over to your house and just kind of helping myself to, some Lorna Doones, some Lay's, whatever fruit was available. You guys had a lot of food, certainly more than we ever had at my house.
We put out a spread,
Yeah.
I do remember coming to your house and not having quite the same, but you did used to make, homemade bread for me, so that was nice. And, it's not like you didn't ask the first time. I think
it was a comfort thing, right? Yeah. Your mom just said, just help yourself, and that was all I needed to hear. One time, that was it. That was all it took. And
So Randy tries to distract Tim here so that Brad can sneak up and get the donuts above the fridge or wherever it is. It's pretty high up there in a cupboard. And so he asks, how do you build a house? And Tim starts telling him, but catches Brad in the act at the same time. And it's just I'm not sure if they don't want them to spoil their appetite or what. But
it's not something, it just kind of comes and goes. It doesn't really lead to anything else. I guess they just wanted to have the kids doing something kind of mischievous. But I thought it was funny, Randy going up to his dad and asking him how to build a house. He knows exactly how to distract his dad and have him answer a question he'll be particularly interested in. But Tim is often he's clever in this regard. He's not gonna he never gets fooled by the kids. He always sees exactly what they're doing coming. So.
Yeah.
We head outward to the fence, and we have Wilson. This is a strange scene, in my opinion. He notices the speakers, and he kind of he comes to the conclusion that maybe Tim purchased a larger stereo set, or just paid more than he should have. And Tim is kind of talking about it's an 18-disc CD changer, so on and so forth. You want to jump in here? What happens?
So he bought a whole
I remember
entertainment
what
center.
happens.
He just didn't get.
But go ahead.
he got a whole entertainment center instead of just speakers. So he's got a CD changer you mentioned, he's got amps, he's got a police scanner, as we'll see later, he's got speakers, and he's going to surprise Jill with this, and I think we all know how this is going to turn out, right. But he's pretty happy about what he got right now.
Yeah.
And I did want to mention, he says he's going to throw out those boxes. I think he needs to learn how to recycle. Come on, Tim. So I just wanted to put that in there.
I think we got to remember it's 1992. I don't know if
figure it out. Figure it out.
Back then. It's so big and so gaudy, the entertainment system. It really reinforced or reminded me how big everything used to be. Like remember like the big screen TVs, like the projection TVs that were just like massive and heavy and yeah.
And the speakers take up a huge piece as well. And now you have like those Sonos speakers.
Yeah.
Sonos, if you want to sponsor us.
yeah.
But yeah, Sonos. They have those little small ones, and they pump out a ton of stuff. So technology has come a long way, and it just continues to get smaller and smaller. From those giant brick cell phones with walkie-talkies to our two-way, I guess it was.
Also, like something like this would have cost a lot of money too, because technology's gotten smaller, but it's also gotten cheaper for potpourri reasons, I guess. But this would have cost. I remember my parents said when they got their first VCR, it was like $1,000 or something. Like it was just like $500 or just some insane amount of money. Like television.
You just knocked that 50% off.
Well,
there.
but you know what I'm getting at. Like like a DVD player now is like $20-$30, right?
Exactly.
But like VCRs cost like hundreds and hundreds of dollars early on. Like TVs were thousands, and just like this would have cost him an entire entertainment system like $5,000 probably.
Yeah.
So it's a big purchase.
We get in the next scene, Jill, that's their first question when she arrives home. Tim goes inside to see Jill staring in, I wouldn't call wonder, but confusion at all of the new gadgets that are in the living room. And her first question is, how much did it cost? Tim informs her that he got a 5-day trial from Biff at Lucky G's. So Biff gave him a deal, I guess.
Is that a Back to the Future reference or what?
I don't know, but he claims that he bought all of this stuff for her, including the police scanner. Jill is upset. And it's a bit, I understand, like, it's way too complicated how she has to turn on this TV.
Well, he can't even do it.
No, he can't, we see later he can't even do it. He did in somehow, I don't know if this is, like, built into what they had, or he made this adjustment where you can power it by claps, like the clapper or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that does not work out well. He starts clapping, and it turns on various different parts of the entertainment center, and it's loud and noisy and just not exactly what Jill wants. She tells him to take it back, but I was impressed. I think it says that Tim rewired it to get it to respond to claps, so that is...
It shows...
he
does have
some sort of ingenuity.
He has his own tool show, so Jordan, he should have some skills. At a certain point, we need to see that he has some ability.
He sure does. He's not just a salesman. He's got some technical ability. But he does start clapping kind of like one of those wound-up monkey toys that slams the cymbals together.
Yeah, I had one of those. Scary. Had to get rid of it. I read like a Stephen King story about a monkey toy that came to life, and then I had to get rid of mine because I just kept envisioning him, clapping the cymbals in the middle of the night. He also was dressed like a 1930s guy that would work at like a theater during the matinee time. He's wearing one of those weird hats and stuff, so I had to get rid of that thing. But.
Yeah, I understand. That sounds traumatizing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was.
So Jill is traumatized by all this stuff. She just unplugs it when it gets too noisy. And I guess we move on to a new scene at what I guess would be the next day.
I have no idea, and this is
always
a home improvement problem. I never know how much time is passing because people are just always in, one of three places you can be. You don't know if it's an hour later or 24 hours later or a couple days later.
Yeah, and I really want to dwell on this later when we get to the final scene, but I won't talk about it too much now. Right. But it is an issue, especially in this episode. So we're presumably maybe the next day at the house. Mm-hmm. Jill is asking about the remote and if she watches opera and they start clapping, how will that affect it? Tim has a nice Western Michigan sweatshirt on, so we should call that out.
He's doing the classic dad thing where he's wearing a sweatshirt over a collared shirt. Which is just not a look you don't see anymore, and I think you and I should maybe bring that back.
I don't really have enough sweatshirts now being in Florida, but I might have to buy some just so I can do it.
You should be able to get them for relatively cheap down there if you think about supply and demand. There's no demand. Just supply.
That must have been from your economics classes.
Well, I went
in
to
college.
Deca States, so
So this scene is very short, and
it's the
just
same. It's
kinda
also just the same scene as before. It's
yeah.
just like a continuation.
Basically it ends with Jill clapping because Mark's ride is here to kind of get him to move quickly, and everything goes crazy.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
then let's move later at the house at what I presume would be the same day. Cords are everywhere. Tim is obviously in over his head trying to figure out how to fix what he's done here.
Yeah.
And he's kind of sitting outside, so he's, I don't know, I
He's
guess
in a really
airing
weird
out.
spot. He's like halfway betwing. I don't know why.
A
I don't
real-
know why he's sitting outside. He's working.
I do.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, he's waiting for Wilson. So,
I mean, okay, yeah. The writers wanted to have him close enough to the fence so that Wilson can come out and talk to him. Yeah, this is a strange scene. Tim's trying to figure out the speaker system. Wilson, unprovoked, kind of just talks about the ancient Greeks and the Dithyramb? Is that the correct
yeah,
pronunciation?
and before we talk about it too much, let's let Wilson explain it here.
Yeah, he does a really good job, and it's definitely a scene that makes sense and isn't, strange or out of place in the episode by any means.
To series your equipment, locate audio in jack and auxiliary output, or VCR and CD, reverse process, or go... Ah, jeez. Do I go in from the output or out from the input?
Howdy ho, neighbor.
Hi, Wilson.
Did you get that sound system hooked up yet?
Oh, yeah, piece of cake, man. Can I ask you a question?
Wolf my tweeter, Tim.
When you listen to your music, do you have it up so loud it rattles the walls?
Well, I used to, Tim, but nowadays when I pound on the bongos that hard, it just makes my palms sore.
Right. Jill thinks I'm obsessed with all this stereo technology. That's not it, I like the loud music, but I like sound. That's what I like. I like 20 megahertz roaring through my body, shaking my bladder, my brain's blasting, my stomach's quivering. Oh, yeah! Oh, yes.
See, it's not unlike what the ancient Greeks felt during a dithyramb.
Dithyramb? How do you spell that?
Well, let's just say a poem with wild and irregular rhythms.
Let's just say that.
Right. The dithyramb actually was a prelude to Greek theater. There was much stylized dancing and chanting as 50 naked men danced to the beat of a drum.
I think there's a place like that down by the airport.
One of my favorite dithyrambs actually is quite similar to the chorus in a play by Aeschylus. Give ear to my dithyramb. Ah! My flesh crawls while I listen to them pray. The day of doom has waited long. Oh, pain! Grown into the race and blood-dripping stroke and grinding cry of disaster moaning and impossible weight to bear. I am cleansed.
These guys would do that naked?
So yeah, Tim talks about he asks Wilson if he ever listens to music too loudly. We learned that Wilson doesn't have a stereo, but he does have bongos, so there's that. And Jill thinks he's obsessed with technology in all sorts of forms. Tim just loves the sound, and this kind of goes back to a few episodes. I feel like, well, it might have been earlier in the season. They kind of had the very same conversation about football and kind of like his obsession with football.
Yeah, it was a lot like that.
It's a very similar conversation. Wilson compares it to an ancient Greece dithyramb, which, and then he does a rendition of it at the end. It sounds like a spoken word poem or some slam poetry or something like that.
It's 50 men dancing naked?
Yeah, something along those
Wilson,
lines.
rest assured, Wilson is not naked. But he is performing, and I gotta comment on the aerial shot here, Jordan. They go up above, they show both sides of the fence, you see Wilson kind of performing, and you see Tim on the other side. And it's just good camera work. It's good filmmaking or, production.
Yeah, whatever. So great production aside, we move on to the next scene.
It's super weird.
It's very strange. I don't know
It's
what
not
else
funny.
to say besides...
It's just really weird.
No.
He's just yeah, I don't know. I guess there isn't much to say. It's just a very strange, one of the weirder Wilson things we've seen this year.
Yeah, they saved the best for the last
I'll say.
season. So we'll move on to a new spot on the Tool Time, or on the Home Improvement studio set here. We go on to Tool Time, and this scene starts out with Tim and Al verbally sparring about how Al wants to be Tim, and Tim says it's a special show, and Al says he's not. Why is it? Because he's not going to break anything.
Tim threatens Al with his job two times
twice.
this episode, and he would not be able to fire Al.
No, I was wondering what kind of pull he might have. It seems like whatever Mr. Binford says goes, anyways. But we do know that Mr. Binford doesn't really like Al that much, so maybe he could.
That's true.
He could sway.
That's true. I really liked Tim's suit coat in this scene. It was like yellowish. Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
I thought it looked good. He looked like he just won like a golf tournament or something.
Yeah, and
the golf tournament in Happy Gilmore.
Exactly. Shoot at.
Yeah,
so this is where I really want to talk about the timeline here. He talks about the last show that they had with Janine and playing the saw, and they do some weird seesaw jokes that I don't really even want to talk about. And they get a letter from the K&B Construction Boys talking about how it inspired them, and he invited them on. Since that time, the next day they went out, they started a band, and they practiced, and they did all this kind of stuff. So even giving them the benefit of the doubt of saying, like, maybe they had this show on Friday, and then the K&B Boys must have saw it on that Friday, and then wrote them on that Friday, somehow mailed the letter and got it to the Home Improvement people, because it's not like they used email. He pulls out an actual letter.
They're fully, and when they perform their song, like, they're fully rehearsed. Like, it's something they've practiced. I mean, it would take months to get it into that kind of shape.
It's very strange.
Everybody's playing different instruments. It's choreographed. They've got everything figured out. They've somehow incorporated Janine Ray Heller into the mix as well. Probably the biggest timing issue of the season. I
would agree. So we do bring out the K&B Boys. They've got a new addition here, John Juke, who plays the mouth harp.
And they continue to be a delight.
They are good. They formed
great.
a band, as you said. They bring out Janine, and Lisa comes out for longer than she has been all season, I would say.
Yeah.
And they're all they talk about what instruments they're going to play.
They're all playing like so like
Pete's on the gasoline
Pete is
cans.
He's playing gasoline cans as if they're drums. Dwayne is...
He's got some galvanized pipes and the anvil. We've got Rock playing like a grind electric saw.
He uses like the sander, and then he puts it down and creates sparks.
Yeah, it makes noises there.
But yeah,
it looks like an electric saw to me.
Okay, and then new guy is playing the harmonica, and it sounds good. And I don't. We're not going to play the clip now because we're going to use it as our outro music. But I liked this scene. I remember seeing this when I was very little and thinking that it was just cool and kind of fun. I just like these guys. I can Pete comes out and does the that would be me, and I think Dwayne's my favorite though. His facial expressions are just like great. Like the look of like wonderment on his face time and time again. It just really gets me. Like he's just this like 50-year-old dude who's just like acting the hell out of this stupid role, and I just love it. I think it's so funny.
Yeah, I do like him. I like Pete too. With he's always proud of himself when he puts together like that sentence of the cacophony of whatever.
Cacophony of
I forget how the whole sentence goes, but it's good, and I do like the scene. I will say I like the scene, but there are some really weird things that happen in the scene to me as they start playing. Tim and Al apparently have choreographed putting their safety glasses on at the same time.
They've choreographed any number of things. Like there's like
they bring
7
out their
things
measuring,
they all do.
like the measuring tape, and I don't even know what they're doing with it. They're like trying to play the guitar with it. They're moving it back and forth, and then Tim goes across the stage, and they're like synchronizing, moving it back and forth. I mean, you need to watch.
They hold up lighters as if it's a concert. Lisa is in on the. It's all choreographed. The three of them are all doing the same things. I don't know. I mean, that part is corny, but I guess I don't know. I still liked the music and liked what was happening with the performance. And they do bring out Janine, and the name of the song is the Ratchet Rhapsody. And I noted this to you a couple days ago, but it definitely looked like at least Pete was actually playing.
Yeah, it looks real.
So it seems like they're actually playing, and if so, that's even more impressive. Yeah, because it sounds good. Like and like I said, we'll play at the end of the episode. But I don't know, it had a good sound to it. It was kind of a fun scene. Did you notice the, like, I don't know, and this was only just a very brief moment on screen, but I guess we could assume they were executives that were like dancing off screen, like really dancing like hard. Did you notice that?
I didn't notice that. I saw them earlier in
man.
the episode, but I didn't notice
They were
that
like
part.
they were like dancing like I don't know. Like
There's no
kids
tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, they're like doing like Johnny Bravo kind of dances almost. And again, camera work really good in this one. They're going over, we're looking down on them, they're panning left, they're panning right. We're getting the full scope of the scene. And I like this, and I think it would have been a good way to end the season. I wish they would have just ended the episode right here.
But they don't. So we go back home. The whole family is gathered around to listen to the speakers. Tony talked about how, the speakers didn't explode earlier, but something else is going to happen here. They turn on some opera, and it sounds good. It's quite loud, though, and we get the sound resonance issue where it gets very high-pitched and all the glass in the house shatters, including the vases and all of the window-paned doors that are kind of leading to the outside there. So lots of dangerous things happening in this house, and I think we probably could all see this coming.
Yeah, it was. This is case in point why I wish they would have ended it on a semi-high note with the performance on Tool Time, because what follows is just not.
Instead, let's go lower. Let's stay at home.
Yeah.
Jill and Tim are in the living room.
We're descending into the bowels of Home Improvement hell.
Pretty much right now. Jill and Tim are in the living room. Jill talks to the insurance agent. All their stuff is covered, but they're doubling the deductible. I wonder what they're doing to the rates. I mean, the deductible is one thing, but the rates should be going up as well. And Tim's wondering why, and they use this as a moment to flash back to all of Tim's accidents in this season.
It's a really cheesy, like cartoonish thought bubble that shows I think it shows him satellite on a Hot Tim's roof. He falls off. It shows him backing the truck into that nebbish fellow's front porch. There's what else does it show?
He gets pulled down the hill in the snow episode.
Oh yeah, he hits Bob Vila in the head. So just those classic bits, it's like season in summation. That's the scene right there.
Season one's greatest hits.
In their opinion. And then the thought bubble disappears, and there's some grunting and roll credits. That's stereotypical.
That is stereotypical. So yeah, end of season one. Lots to talk about here, and as you said earlier, we're going to do a recap episode that will come out next week, kind of talking about our favorite moments and our not favorite moments and all that sorts of stuff. But this episode in general, I guess we should talk about overall what we thought, how we felt about everyone's performance. I guess I would say it definitely had some good scenes, but I'm still not in love with this episode for any reason. I think the guest appearances are great. Janine does a great job of bringing something different to the show. I think she does a good job of acting as well as playing like a very unique skill on the show. That's something different. Too much time at home with the stupid stereo crap for me. It's a non-interesting plot at all, for various reasons, and we've seen it before. Tim overrules what his wife says and does what he wants and makes improvements, and it goes terribly wrong.
I don't know. I think compared to the last couple episodes we've watched, I like this one better just because of the guest characters again. So Janine Ray Heller playing the saw in the beginning is something different, something we haven't seen, something that I thought was cool. Always a fan of the K&B Construction Boys. It's funny to see them for the third time in the first season, so must be they knew they had a good thing early on. But I really liked the scene where they're all playing, where they're playing the Ratchet Rhapsody. I know it's corny with regards to Tim and Al and Lisa and the choreographed stuff, but I think on the whole, it was a nice way to close out the season, even though it doesn't close out the episode per se. But it was a nice final moment, and I don't know if it's sentimentality or nostalgia, but I remember liking it when I was young, and I still enjoyed it to a certain degree. I agree with you on the stereo stuff. This is an episode that has just a couple of cool scenes, but not necessarily anything kind of threading them together or any real stakes that I care about. The Tim and Jill fight about the speakers just kind of disappears. She says, don't spend too much. He goes out and spends too much. And then I mean, he busts some windows and stuff at the end, and she just kind of forgives him. So, not much for the kids, not much for Al. Wilson's scene is one of the most bizarre. It's an okay episode. It's fine. It's not one of my favorites, but like I said, compared to what we've watched of late, it's a little bit better for me.
Yeah, I would agree it's better than the last couple, but we've definitely seen better episodes. And I guess
you want more out of a conclusion or a season finale.
Yeah,
episode.
you're kind of spoiled nowadays with how they do cliffhangers and such. And I know this isn't like a drama or anything, so there's not really what kind of cliffhangers you could do. But there's still some left to be desired for me here.
Right, so Jordan, we're going to transition into social media roundup.
We sure are.
How's that sound?
It sounds spectacular. So I guess we can talk about some new initiatives that we have coming up that we wanted to release at the end of Season 1, and we're going to start doling out there for Season 2. So, you can definitely reach out to us on the normal outlets. Our email, homeandpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Twitter @homeandpodcast, facebook.com/homeandpodcast, and thehomeandpodcast.com for our website.
Before we go any further, I do want to comment on the most recent poll on Twitter. Favorite season, 84% of us said fall, 8% spring, 8% summer, 0% winter. And that's 13 votes, which is a pretty good number for us. So fall in a landslide. So I just wanted to I like to keep everybody updated on the polls because I know that they're important to the majority of listeners, if not just the majority of the public at large. So Jordan, let's delve into those initiatives.
Yeah, so the main thing that we're doing here is we are going to we've done one season, and I think it's gone really well, and we've both had a wonderful time doing it, and I hope that everyone listening has had a good time. We're hoping to launch a couple different ways for people to donate to us to help us store all of the audio files that we have now and will have in the future, so that we can continue to put out the podcast and even more regular episodes, like a season recap. We need more space to do that. So
yeah, we're looking to cover the costs of the show. Domains cost money, storage costs money, just putting the episodes on platforms costs money. And we do this every week, and it's free for people, and we like doing it, and we like spending our time doing it. But we would very much appreciate any kind of donations that people are willing to dole out for the show. Because these costs they add up after a while. So yeah, Jordan, how can people give to us, or what can they do?
Yeah, so there's a couple different options actually. If you want to just do like a one-time donation, the option is going to be available on our website at thehomeandpodcast.com. There's going to be a little support button there that you can click on, and we just have a link to PayPal where you can just donate, any amount of money that you'd like. We also have another option is on Patreon, patreon.com. You can become a patron of our show, and that's more of a recurring giving. And we have different levels at which you can give. There's a $1 level per month, $3, $5, $7, $10 level per month. And, with each of those levels, you get a certain, you can call them rewards for donating at those levels for each month. So there's an opportunity to become part of the show. We're going to use some audio clips to add to what we already do at the start of our show to make that intro better. We have a wall of fame that we're going to put up on our blog as well to kind of honor those people who give to us and shout you out as a sponsor of the show. If you have any questions and we get a few questions and you want your question answered, this will ensure that you get your question answered. And then we also have an opportunity to give people autographed posters with the Home and Podcast logo. So a few things, but we're also open to other ideas. If there's other things that you'd like to see, other things that you'd be interested in, we'd love to figure out how to make that happen and give the people what they want, so to say.
Yeah, so just to be clear, those donating on PayPal, it's a one-time thing. But if you go the Patreon route, then you're donating a certain amount per month. So it's a reoccurring thing. So just to be aware of that. And I think that the rewards, quote unquote, that are available for Patreon, are those also available via PayPal, Jordan?
Yeah, we're going to figure out a way. It might be a little bit different as far as figuring out how to do that, since a lump sum is a little bit different than a monthly one. But we'll figure it out. We'll work with you and make sure that, we want to make sure that everyone who supports us knows how much we appreciate them. And so we're going to make that happen one way or another. So We just appreciate everyone listening in general, but hopefully you guys will feel encouraged to give and help us with some of these costs. And we're going to, regardless of what people do, we're going to continue putting out the show. So.
Yep, and no sum is too small.
Absolutely.
And inversely, no sum is too large. But we completely appreciate anything anyone's willing to do. And if you don't want to give it all, of course, we want you to continue to listen, continue to enjoy the show, and we'll continue to enjoy doing the show.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
And that is the first season, Jordan. We don't want to get too reflective or too nostalgic in this episode because we are going to be recording the season in summation episode next. So come next week, we will be, you can look for our kind of just a recap of the whole season. We'll answer some questions. We'll talk about top episodes, top moments, top guest stars, and then, the opposite end of the spectrum, least favorite episodes, least favorite moments, and so on. And we'll be talking more about the donations and so on in the next couple of episodes. We'll try not to shove it down your throat by any means, but we will be talking about it for the foreseeable future. So, we're gonna leave this final episode. We're gonna close out with the Ratchet Rhapsody. Kind of go that whole clip, and I guess I should say thank you, Jordan. It's been a pleasure to do this with you for the first season, and thanks everyone for listening. And I should say take care.
Take care, everybody.
Mm-hmm.